What is up, guys? Redflex95 here with a brand new deck reveal, and I don't think I'm going to spoil what this deck is quite yet in the title or the thumbnail because I want to keep it a nice surprise for you guys. So rolling out my new playmat here from optcg.gg. This is a one-piece game mat, but this is not a one-piece deck. This is Yu-Gi-Oh, of course. I'm a huge fan of One Piece. I saw this amazing playmat and I had to get it. I'm sorry, plus this was $30. This is like one of the nicest playmats I have, and it costs like $10 less than pretty much every other playmat I own, with like a handful of exceptions. I recently got another Inked Gaming playmat, but I just have to be blunt here. I think the quality went down. I remember getting a playmat from them years ago and it was like on par with this one I have here. This one though is like half the thinness, and it's just not that good quality. It's just like a cheap rubber. They definitely crapped out on the quality there, and I'm sad because that cost me like $40. I think they had a deal, so I didn't spend any more than that, but like for $30 I got this one, and it looks better than the one I got a custom print of. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna complain about it further than that. But on top of this, I also got some deck boxes from them. This is my upgraded Tenpai Dragon deck. I'm not really going to go over that because we already did about a few months to a year ago. But these are based on the Devil Fruits from One Piece, which are nice. But that's enough of that. We'll get into the actual topic. So, yeah, sorry for the weird positioning, the way this is set up. I am like a good 2 feet away from this deck box, and so it's really hard for my arms just to be oh wow, pop my elbows. Okay, so this is a major deck I've been working on for quite some time, about 2 months, and cost me a shitload of money. Like, this is definitely the most expensive deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! I've paid for. And it's not necessarily because the cards themselves were expensive or like relevant in any way. They're really not. The reason why it cost so much is because I went all out on rarity. I wanted something special, and figured I probably won't be getting a new deck for like another 2 years, so why not? I'm just gonna go all out with the rarity of things. So here we are. So here's the back of the deck, and then here's the extra deck. The colors I went for this deck are Clear and Valor for the extra deck. I bought way too many sleeves, so I have a lot of extra, which I'm probably going to sell or give away to a bunch of friends of mine, because I'm not going to use them, honestly. But yeah, I went with Clear because I just think it looked really nice. And unfortunately, I originally went with Valor with the main deck, but half the sleeves were like a different tone. So I realized, like, if I'm ever going to take this to a tournament, like, this is not good. This is really bad, so I have to change the sleeves. And I went with Clear because I couldn't pick a color, and I was like, why pick a color when there's one that's basically no color? This is a 60 card deck. It is a specific strategy you'll see in a moment. So for the sake of keeping things a little easier for me, I am going to split the deck up a bit just so we can easily get through it. From monsters and spells and stuff like that. And let's get right into it. So right off the bat, we have one copy of Judgement Dragon. So yes, it's one of those decks. One copy of Punishment Dragon. Both these cards are really amazing, and with the way this deck works, you can easily pop these things on the field pretty quickly and efficiently. Plus, by paying simply just 1,000 life points, you could basically banish everything you have on the field except for Punishment Dragon, or I think just straight up discard, I believe. Destroy all cards. So super powerful, really freaking good. Punishment's probably my favorite, just because this deck heavily focuses on the banishment aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm really happy with that. Of course, with both of them, I have 3 copies of Lightsworn Dragonling, which is a fantastic search piece. This thing can search out any of the Lightsworns you need when it's sent to the graveyard, including the trap cards and spell cards with Lightsworn in the name. Just amazing card, and definitely one card that if you showed me like 5 years ago, I would be like, oh, that's a fake made up card easily. Really excellent and looks fantastic in quarter century rare. This is probably the most expensive card by itself in the entire deck. 3 copies of Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend. Sorry, I had to read that very slowly for some reason. Another amazing card. If you draw this and a Wulf in your first hand, you just basically use this card to put Wulf to the top of the deck, discard the top 2 cards of the deck, and then special summon it. On top of that, you get to trigger Wulf and whatever card was sent to the graveyard's effects, respectively. Just an amazing card, and it is a level 4 tuner, which helps out a lot with this deck because we are a synchro focused extra deck. So very good, and definitely one that I want to get a higher rarity of when that becomes available, which might be sooner than later because I think they announced another rarity collection for next year, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's how I could afford half these cards. And obviously 3 copies of Wulf Lightsworn Beast and 2 copies of Felis Lightsworn Archer. Wulf is just amazing. It's a level 4 beat stick. It's 2100 attack points. You could get this thing on the field super easily with this deck. And I only have 2 Felis because even though it is a good tuner, I don't really plan on using it too much. I have Weiss for that reason, and its ability to pop itself in order to destroy a card on the field is pretty nice, but I don't really see myself using it that much. So I'm going to still run it just at 2. If at one point I want to make it a 3 of, I do have a spare copy laying around somewhere, so I'm not too hurt on that. So there are those. And lastly, to round out the Lightsworn engine for the monsters, 2 Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn. Basically, this card allows you to just go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to discard the top 2 cards of my deck and then get this thing a boost if any of them are Lightsworn, and then I could play off any of the effects of the monsters I would discard with it. Even though it is a 60-card deck and it would be not that easy to get a Lightsworn discarded by this way, it's still a good thing to do sometimes with the rest of the monsters in this deck. I just really like this thing, and it's at potentially a $1900 attack beat stick, which is really good. And then you discard, additionally on top of that, you discard another 2 cards. So that is my Lightsworn monsters. I would have run, I think it's Lucrema. No, it's not Lucrema. It's the Summoner one. I would run Summoner in this deck instead of Raiden, but I want to try out Raiden. If I don't like him, then I will switch it out. Next up is 3 copies of Bystial Lubellion, or Lubellion. Oh my god, I pronounced it wrong. Seriously. Anyway, this thing's really freaking solid. I mean, look at this design. I want a playmat of this so bad, but that playmat is not cheap, so I'm not going to get it. This thing is just a really good searcher. It's a nice body on the board. It's a level 8, so you can go into some really good Exceed monsters. Just in general, amazing card. And then I run 1 copy each of Magnahut, Druiswurm, Saronir, and Baldrake. Obviously, just to round out the Bystial engine in this deck. I only run 1 of each of these guys because originally I ran 3 of Saronir, and I didn't really know if I was ever going to really use him. I'm mostly going to stick to Magnahut and Druiswurm because those 2 are actually really good. But either way, I didn't want to run 3 Druiswurm. I didn't really want to run more than 1 of these guys or 1 Baldrake. I might scrap Baldrake to be real with you, but still a nice monster to have. So there's that. 3 copies of Imsety, Glory of Horus, and 1 Hapi, Guidance of Horus. Spectacular cards, amazing life points, easy to bring out, level 8 to go into synchros and tuners and things like that. Not tuners, sorry. Synchros or, what's the word I'm looking for? Exceeds. Next up on my engine block, my last main core engine is Fiendsmith Engraver. I'm not spending all that money for 3 Quarter Century Rare copies, so I stuck with the still pretty expensive secret rare. Just amazing card. This thing could just do so much. So if I potentially get this engine in my hand, I'm just like setting up. I'm gonna win that duel. I love it a lot, so that's why I run 3 of them. Obviously, I run a Fabled Lurrie as well, which I count as part of that engine. And that is pretty much it for the main engines. So let me clean this up real quick. I love these clear sleeves, by the way. So smooth and silky. I will say the one thing about these sleeves I'm not a fan of is the clear ones. At least they have a rough, like, some of them on the top look a little rough to me. Like they feel a little sandpapery, which I'm not a fan of, but either way. Next up is one Archlord Kristya. Easy to bring out with this deck and basically locks your opponent from special summons, which is amazing. So getting this turn 1 is really good. And with a few cards in my deck, which I'll show you in a moment, you can get that thing out on the field pretty quickly, but it usually requires a little bit of setup. One Chaos Dragon Levianeer, which is one of the examples of a card that I use for Kristya, because if Kristya's in my graveyard and I bring this thing out with all, I believe, light attribute monsters, yes, I could use this effect to bring Kristya out in defense mode, and there you go. I have a 3,000 body. I have a monster with over 2,000 defense. My opponent can't special summon, so he's basically locked to just normal or tribute summons. Either way, as long as Kristya's on the field, my opponent's locked out of doing much if I get this out on turn 1, which is not going to be the easiest, but it's also not the hardest. I'll explain that in a moment. 2 Starliege Seyfert, which is a great search engine for dragons. 1 Chaos Emperor, the Dragon of Armageddon, so I can use him to help potentially get something out of my banishment. 2 Chaos Creator. Not 1, not 2, but 3 copies of Distant Hero Malicious. Just a fantastic body to go into Exceeds. That's all I have it for. Plus it's a level 6. If I ever run some rank 6s, I could easily get that out too. Just in my opinion, solid. And then of course 1 copy of Mudora and 1 copy of Keldo, respectively. Just so I could cycle some things back into my deck. So that is basically my Chaos Core, as I like to call it. And I went with the Platinum rares because they just looked better to me than the Quarter Century rare. This is my favorite rarity in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, guys. I love this thing. I want more cards like it, and if I could afford it, which I can't at the moment, I would get all these cards in that rarity. I probably should have, honestly, but I'm fine with a lot of Quarter Century too, so not a big deal. Next up for the spells and traps. Obviously, I run the classic triple Light Brigade and triple Solar Recharge. And with the mail deck, it's good to have that Grass Look Screener. And I also run 3 copies of Left Arm Offering, which is amazing. Basically, as long as you have more than 2 cards in your hand besides Left Arm Offering, you could banish all those cards and then add basically any spell card in your deck to your hand with the restriction of you can't set it, but that doesn't mean you can't play it. You could add any spell card you want and just immediately play it for advantage. It's just a really solid card, and it gives me bodies to go, okay, so I have 2 Lightsworns in my hand. I need some bodies for Punishment Dragon. I have a Left Arm Offering. I'm going to throw that on the field. Personally, I prefer this over Triple Tactics Thrust. It's a pretty good card, but between me and the one person I duel with, I don't really see him use a lot of hand traps, so this is just an amazing card to have that with. And I'm going to be posting this video pretty much after we first experience this deck together. 1 Foolish Burial, just in case. 1 Chaos Space, which is a very good card. I'll explain why. Chaos Space lets you add any monster with this rule of you cannot normal or... So basically, this lets you add a monster that mentions the phrase cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned. And that includes Punishment and Judgement Dragon, Wulf, Felis, sorry, didn't mean to bump the thing. Lubellion. I have a few more. Chaos Dragon Levianeer. Emperor Dragon. And Chaos Creator are all the monsters that I could search out with Chaos Space. So essentially I could go, I need this strategy, I need this monster, Chaos Space, bring it into my hand, and then use it. Amazing card. I'll organize these cards later, not a big deal. One Branded Regain, obviously. 2 King Sarcophagus. And 2 Fiendsmith Tract. I only run 2 of them because I wanted to use Chaos Space and I thought Tract wasn't as useful as these other ones. Still really good. I could search this out pretty easily with Lightmare Offering. And this card is really good because it searches out a Light Fiend. Any Light Fiend. So that includes my Fiendsmith Engraver, my Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend, and Fabled Lurrie. I believe that's the 3 that searches out. And then obviously run 1 Lightsworn Aegis. I run Aegis over something like the Blackout Laughs or something like that. I don't really want to run anything like that. Plus, this could be searched out using Dragonling's effect because that searches out Lightsworn cards. Not just monsters, but cards. So this is very useful. Plus, it lets me lock my opponent from using their effects on their field. So that's just essential for this deck. Another card I want to get a rarity buff of, but right now, we have what we have. And if you noticed, I don't know how well it pops on this camera, but my left arm offerings, I have 1 super rare and the other 2 are not in the mail yet. So we'll get that very soon. Next up for the side deck, I want to start with the side deck first because it's a lot easier to explain than my extra deck. I have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just essential card. I run it in my side deck because I don't really care about it in my main deck. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster and 2 Lightning Storms. 1 Triple Tactics Talent and 2 Thrust, just in case if my plan with my other cards don't work as well. 3 Cosmic Cyclones and 3 Evenly Matched. So that is my side deck. Self-explanatory, prevents my opponent from searching cards. Board wipes, banishes, which is fantastic for some decks. Lets me search any spell or trap card if my opponent actually does have hand traps. Lets me draw 2 or special summon something, which is very useful with Kristya. And then just helps me wipe the field in case if I don't have a great starting hand and I didn't want to mulligan, which is a house rule I have at my house. Not exactly something in tournaments, but I'm that guy. Anyway, if you're curious, by the way, that is like one of the house rules I actually use. I don't have like anything ridiculous like, oh, forget about the whole if you go first you can't draw thing. I still follow that. And the ban list too, for the most part. So if you watch this like 10 years in the future and half these cards are banned, just remember that this was made in 2024 after the December 9th ban list. So just FYI. For my extra deck, I have 1 Enlightenment Dragon, 1 Fiendsmith Desiree, 1 Necroclip Princess, 1 Minerva the Athenian Lightsworn, I pronounced that wrong, I don't care, 1 Chaos Angel, 1 Psy-Frame Lord Omega, 1 Bystial Dispatter, I'll explain something about that real soon, 1 Soulsword Supreme Sovereign Qin Yang, 1 Minerva the Exalted Lightsworn, 1 number 60 Dagaris the Timeless, which is also a great card for Kristya, the Zombie Vampire, fantastic, Fiendsmith Requiem, Fiendsmith Sequence, IP Masquerena, and SP Little Knight. I think this is a really awesome extra deck. I've been basically debating on what I would drop from this for anything else. I thought about replacing something with the Heavenly Spheres, which if I did, it would probably be Masquerena. I like SP Little Knight that much. For the most part, my main gimmick here is to mostly get Athenia out on the field and Enlightenment Dragon. But as backup options, I have Chaos Angel, I have Zombie Vampire with thrust, so I could potentially get, not thrust, the other one, the tactics, so I could get an opponent's card and then use that monster to bring out Zombie Vampire, excuse me. I have this to help me special summon something from my graveyard, which could be Kristya. Just in general, a lot of options. And then my favorite thing is the combination of Omega and Dissipator. If you don't know this, you can use Omega's effect to banish him and one of your opponent's cards in their hands. Use Dissipator to special summon Omega back from being banished, and use Omega's effect again despite it being once per turn. Because it is once per turn per copy, and bringing it out from banished again with Dissipator technically counts as a separate Omega. So you can use this twice. So you could banish effectively 2 cards from your opponent's hand, and sure, they get that back, but you can use another card effect from one of these monsters, I forget which one, to basically permanently shuffle a card, one of those cards from the graveyard back into their deck, and effectively prevent them from bringing that card back into their hand. So this is just disruption on a whole different level, and I love it. Plus, these are not at all small, weak monsters. This is a combo that's 5,000 attack a piece, which is insane. I don't think he could attack, though, with that effect, but that's fine with me. It's one of my favorite monsters, by the way. That and Judgement Dragon. Super amazing deck, in my opinion. I would bring combos off, pop some combos off, but right now I don't really want to shuffle my deck up more than it is. I'm really excited to review this deck in the future, probably in the next 2 weeks or so. It's kind of a hectic month. Everyone's getting sick, and just work is a hectic as hell, so I'm not really able to duel that much right now. But I'm really happy about this deck. Sorry for that cut. I wanted to cut a portion out that got a little too personal, and though not bad, usually, trust me, you didn't want to hear any of that. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching this amazing video. I think it came out really nice as I watched it. Obviously, I hope you guys have a great holiday this year. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, everything else in between. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, and my non-binary pals, I will leave you now. Thank you again. Have a great rest of your year. And hopefully next year is going to be a great one. Peace out.